We need to go away from systems and go looking at the tools. When we go into something, we can't just use our hands and say that it comes to existence. There has to be something that aids in that construction. Here is what it is. My VIP cohort, ready to lend an ear. We have a special day today. Most things that get told to you is like systems and what little trick you can use with sales and all this and that. But very few really go after what type of software, what type of tools that you need to set you up for success. We do have large language models, we do have humans, but where do we start to really distinguish ourselves? If we think in the regards of how one person can do better than another, I would fully advocate onto one's tools. If a golfer buys a cheap set of golf clubs and it breaks mid-game, but he has one of the best golf games in the world, it doesn't matter how great of a golf game he has, his tool is inadequate for what is needed. And all too often we want to spout how they're so great, but fail to look at the tool, the maintenance, and all the other parts because it's advanced and it's tactile. And people don't like that it shifts like water. One tool that I give you today can shift tomorrow. But if you have this idea of these tools and use repertoire of trying to find alternatives and new versions and new models, you will be setting yourself farther than most other people think. And that's what will give you peace of mind. So when we look for a tool, we need to first look at the scope. And where do we look at the scope? We look at where does the business needs need to go. So if I'm trying to build a video game, I would probably want to hop on Unity or look around and find stuff that is needed. Go maybe the VS Code or C Sharp, build it out on Visual Studio or VS Code, Visual Studio for the IDE, but I'm not going to go too deep into that part. What I'm trying to reference is we first need to know the scope of the work, and then we need to start pretty much building out a key of tools that we can plug in and play with. There's open source, there's free, and there's paid. And there's pros and cons to everything, but I highly recommend in your beginning phase, find open sources and build them out, especially with large language models now, that you can integrate those into your own and create a whole ecosystem by yourself. So you're not paying out to somebody else's subscription. It's nothing wrong with paying out. I've done full-time softwares off AppSumo, Stack Social, and they were great investments, and it allowed me to see the grander scope of things. Yet if I was to mentor somebody else, I would showcase that, hey, you can now build this, go after it, and I honestly believe get it out there to them for free. Build more trust in that, and then value your time. One quote that I live by is, don't sell the apple, sell the apple juice. That's where we need to look at it. When people make like a movie or anime, honestly, they shouldn't be stressing as much of the money in like the runs and screening unless there's a bigger investment in the back end and you need to recuperate. What you should be looking at is the merchandise thereafter, because that's where most of the profit happens. The apple is just the introduction. You want them to get that taste. If they can't get that taste out of their mouth, they'll run the globe over and over again because that's what drives them. And then they'll want more things thereafter. So we have to put our greed, our lust, our avarice in a box at this time to make sure that they get the taste of that apple. And if they know the apple tastes so dang good, and then you say, hey, that same apple that you like, we now have in an apple juice. And we do charge on that because, well, it takes more process on the back end. Sometimes it doesn't, but that's just what you explain to them. And now you're now giving it a funnel. And then more value gets created. So it's never so much of us buying products as in the story that we put behind the products that builds everything. So what I'm going to do today for my audience and my cohort, we are going to look at my VIP cohort. I screwed up. My bad. We're going to look at my Flow blog. and it's going to showcase the tools that I've built out on there through the Claude code and my book list that I've done as well, showcasing a whole ton of just free products that I want to showcase to my audience and go after that. So without further ado, let's go here. So this is my newsletter. It's on the vipelix.com/en, and it will be on the distribution channel, and it will be the blog, VIP blog. You just click on that. You'll be redirected to first the newsletters, and then you can select one of the headlines and go right into it. I've already selected the tool stack, and then what we have here is what I'm using for Vipelix. There's still a few more things that I want to add in, but the great thing about this is it's showcasing what type of payment platforms that you can use, and hopefully I'm going to get on here soon, Authorize.net and Braintree. Those are very two great ones to have as well, and maybe PayPal. This is just still in its lighter version, but there'll be more versions to come. We have Automation. NAN is a wonderful platform when you get it on your own hosted. It can be expensive getting it cloud hosted, but it's easier in some aspects on that cloud. So just cost analysis there. You have Make and Zapier. Really cool. There's still free versions on Zapier and so forth, but if you want to have more autonomy with your own thing, highly recommend just getting NAN and running on your own. And especially, as I said before, with large language models, you can really do a lot of great things. And then, Swoop Dash. This was one that I got off AppSumo during its lifetime deals, and I highly recommend AppSumo. Not sponsored or affiliated. They have a lot of software that you can sit through and look at, like, what type of things do you want to get now, and don't limit yourself, because you can now start building out some of these things. It does take time and it does take discipline to get a whole environment built out, whether it's through Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT, even DeepSeek, Hermes, OpenClaw. It will take time to make sure that you build out the whole system. I enjoy Claude most of all. Not so much that it's perfect in every regard. There's things that has its pros and cons, but I love its environment the most. And the more that I studied it, the more that I start building it out to the things that I need. Like, I can get a repo for Remotion, and then it can start doing video editing. I can get a UI UX skill, plug that in. Now I can use that as reference. Then I can use plugins and start really tailoring out the responses that it has as well. And it just keeps updating itself. And the coolest thing that I enjoy about Claude is that it has the routines and schedules. So now you can start automating already on top of things. And then, as we know, GitHubs is a great source for getting your code base out there and hosting it privately and so forth. That was one thing that I just realized recently. If you need to get your code base onto a cloud base, so say if things go kaput, you don't want the sensitive data in there, but you do want to keep important stuff at the ready. And I totally glossed over SuitDash, but let's tread back to SuitDash. SuitDash is like an all-in-one platform for your business needs. And this was one of the best investments that I made, because it let me see like how to do the CRM, how to do funnels, because it had its own automation built inside of it. The payment platforms, email types, what else was in there? You could build out web pages, you could send out invoices, accounting. It had everything pretty much inside of it. There was still like some outdated stuff that didn't work as well, and it wanted to upcharge for some things. But for the package that I got, it was perfect for seeing how everything in business should be organized. And I highly recommend that. But there is also open source stuff that if you, let's say you hop on YouTube and you look how SuitDash is built and you want to build something closely to that, you can hop on one of these open sources and build it out to your liking. And email sequences. This is where it got me deep. SMTPs. Because that's how you can really send out bigger email campaigns. But if you don't do the email campaigns right, you'll be ending up in the spam folder very quickly. So you can either go to a platform that does the warm-up process and make sure all the certificates are there so you're not listed as a, how would you say, an unknown visitor, and you can just get them that content, as well as maybe getting connected with this few close knitted groups to get them signed up for your newsletter so they can be updated if the content that you have is very approachable with them as well and they want to be a supporter of you. You can use the email light. But with an SMTP, I would highly recommend getting like your own virtual private server so then it can run 24/7 and it's not on like one device that can fail out. And you can do it with Docker as well, and that's a whole different thing. But in short, just know that if you can do your email sequences, that's a very powerful way that you can use leads. And this is where I'm going to go to next. The leads and the outreach. I got this one on AppSumo as well, Cloudora. Cloudora is pretty much a B2B lead software. And AppSumo had a deal where if you bought 2 of their license keys, you would get a certain amount of leads. We bought the highest tier with 90,000 leads total, and it can be divided up into others. Never used fully yet, because you don't want to just send spam emails to unknown people that will not truly need it. So you need to first build out an offer that is very good and that will bring their attention in. And you have to create, I would say, like a party that they enter and they feel like they're seeing art and communicating and socializing with some very great stuff. Stuff as in like the stuff that you built. And that would be pretty good. Now, content and social. The one I wish that I put on here but I forgot was Meld. I'm looking into putting that one on in the future as well. But content and social is very important. And I would recommend sticking to like one major video creating source and one social content source. If you want to do more, that's awesome. And that's where Hopper HQ really handles it greatly. Excuse me. I could tell you that you could get that open source for free, but I really enjoyed Hopper because I got it off AppSumo again. If you're getting anything off here, AppSumo was great at a time where I was thinking, I want to bootstrap my business and I want to have software. So in the event that I ever lost everything, I still had those software, so long as if they honored the agreement. And that's why I thought that's a pretty good deal. So Hopper HQ, I pretty much made 5 social media accounts and I pretty much linked them up here. And I probably spent 3 good months just like testing out image gen off Leonardo and then like creating word, like, how would you say? Words of inspiration. That's what I did on there. And it was pretty cool. You got to see like different stories that you could play out with. But the Hopper HQ like pretty much let out onto all platforms the schedule that I had. So it made it easier. So instead of me just posting and scheduling on all these platforms, I could do it in one place and it just sends it all across. Very useful at its point. But if you had the open source, you could now have more access to the backend code to make it to what you need. So say like Hopper HQ, I don't think their API was that great. I could create my own source, create an API, and then it can call it within like NAN, and then it works in synchronicity with those two. So there's no like backend then going to the text and then so forth. It's a lot more burden onto you, but then there's burden onto them. And if they're not responding in a faster time period, it can be little hiccups. It's not to say Hopper HQ is bad. It's just saying, given your timeline, you don't want to wait for responses. You want to have full ability to work with it fast. And that's where the game of speed comes in. The faster you are at getting to your clients when they respond to you, the better off you're going to be. And I failed at this at points. But you got to figure out with the large language model, if you can get it implemented into a process that can communicate with people the fastest so they feel very connected and that they're not waiting long, that's where you're going to start winning. And that's all I can say on that. Minovo, I found that one on AppSumo once again, along with Mushin. I was very heavily big on, how would you say? Large language models are going to create videos probably a year beforehand, and I wanted to have something that was lifetime so I could create those videos out. But with the AI videos, it can not look the best format. It was pretty cool to like see that you could do it and do those shorts, but that's not a long-term game. It's more or less you can play around with it and see what can be done. But in the future, from what I see right now, let's say like Seed Dance and how well it's doing its video model generation. The future is very great for video gen, in my own opinion. Don't quote me. And there's no guarantees on that. But Minovo was cooler because it could take a long format video and then split it up into clips, and then you can send it out like Opus. And I wanted something that was Opus, but without the payment of doing it heavily. And Minovo just solved that, given in their rates and usage. And then you have OBS Studio, is really cool. It's a huge learning curve, and you gotta make sure like you know your stuff in there. It has a lot more functionality than Meld, but Meld has an easier learning curve, so you can just get it started, building it out, and it's just smoother that I find right now. And if you're not doing anything crazy, yeah, I highly recommend Meld in the beginning. Money and operations, you have Firefly 3. Firefly 3 was surprising how that one came up. I was like building out a website for my landlord, and I wanted it to have the ability to like calculate the bids that they wanted to do for this auction, because he wanted like an auction site. Completed it out. It's called Auction Gara, by the way. And completed it out, but it used Firefly to use on the back end through a workflow on N8N to showcase that if someone placed a bid, it would go into the account as like this one was the placed bid. Really cool. So it's very good at like doing the, how would you say, like the daily transaction load. As GNU Cache, that's the one I use. It's another open source. These two are great. I looked into a little bit, but I use GNU Cache just personally because I was more familiar with it. I use that to like do, how would you say, like quarterly and monthly statements that give you more overview of what's going on. And then I figured out like how to put the personal and business in between, so it can calculate those. And then the large language model can take a look and see where these expenses and money's coming in flow. And that's the best way. Stripe is pretty cool, but I wouldn't really use it for money tracking as so much as using it to get the payment transaction to move it into the business account. That's my main thing. Now we got, drum roll please, calls and scheduling. So if we're having like, the big one we know of is like Zoom and Microsoft Teams, where you're sitting there and you're wanting to like discuss, have webinars and all that. But I don't want to pay for Zoom or Microsoft Teams. And I heard of Jitsi, and it's open source, and it's very your own way of doing things. And if you want to get it bigger to like webinars, you can host it on different servers to make it bigger. 1 second. So, thanks for that. And it's pretty cool that way. Cal.com is pretty much like, how would you say, Calendly, but more your own control. And it has some better looking stuff. And it's pretty good. And then these are the things that I've used more for MCP. So pretty much they're the connectors that you can use alongside the large language model. And I use that in Claude. And they're pretty good. I have used Composio to do a little bit more. And that one I highly recommend to people. If you had to get 2 repos to put into your like Claude session, I haven't done it with chat. I would get Remotion and Composio. Composio is great because MCPs, they're all loaded in like a basket, and it can be used a lot more tokens before it loads into your prompt. And don't quote me on that. I'm not like the back end understanding all the words in guru style, but a CLI, it just calls it right from the command line terminal. So it's saving tokens and it's going directly to the thing that's being asked. So now you're saving space for what is needed. So if you wanted to get GitHub, It's cool that it's in the MCP on Claude. You can just do that and it'll be simpler. But if it was on the command line, it would just be directly to the GitHub and then get another command line, let's say that's unique to, let's say, Instagram, because Composio has the Instagram. And you could connect those two together and then ask it to like create your stories and reels. I'm not a big one into Instagram as much, but this is the idea. You can pretty much build out the story, the reels, maybe even call the remotion skill from the videos that you made just to make sure everything's good. And then bam, you're good. And do your revisions and make sure everything looks right. But now you have pretty much a system in place. And then you have your AI stack. You have Claude, you have Gemini, and ChatGPT. These are like the main ones. I use Claude and Gemini heavily. ChatGPT, much less. I know they've upgraded because they have the 5.6 model and so forth, and I heard some really good things, and I've tested it on. Dang, that's some good lightning there. Good sound effects too. And it's pretty good, the 5.6 ChatGPT. I use 1 Minute AI. I bought that off Stack Social. It's 4 million tokens per month, and it allows me to test out many models and many. They have their own dashboard that goes to specific categories of what you need. So if you have images, you can go in there and build images out. If you want to make music, you can make music out. It's pretty easy on that. You can make videos on there, but I highly don't recommend. You'll burn through credits way too fast on that, and you'll be buying more. So it's not best for video gen, but it's very good for doing image, writing, even code at sometimes. But I don't use it for code because it's not built into your whole interface. Like if you get it into your whole desktop interface, or even on VS Code where you get the extension and it does it that way, that's a far better experience because it's built inside. The other one's on the web. So you would have to be I copy the code, I plug it into the code base, and then that's that. It's not working synchronicity wise between each other. Handshaking. And that's pretty much all on the tools at this time. And then I have my books here. And these are pretty much tailored out to my payment gateways. That's where I hit heavily on. I believe adamantly that payment gateways should be taught over all this guru stuff. Let's say if I told you, let's start drop shipping today. Woohoo! We do drop shipping. And we build out the website, we do all these things, but we don't know how to get the business bank account started, or what type of payment processor we use, or how do we make sure that we don't get banned for transaction load or chargebacks. That's where I'm more adamant about talking, because if you understand this, you can go into a business and say, look, do you understand how your payment infrastructure works? Do you know your compliancy? Do you know SOC, HELOC? Not HELOC, that's a home line of credit. Dang it. Let's negate that one, but you have SOC and you have your GDRP compliance and the PCE. I don't quote me. I'm going off the top of my head right now. But yes, you have books that you can come in here, see what you need. And they're pretty much all good. Curated to find what you need. And I'm going to expand it out more as well, so you'll get more content on that regard. And then I have over here other ones. My PT, time block, and timeline. This is my main thing that I would use if you want to do time blocking, timelines, and projects. And they all go together because we are given too little information of how to orient our day to get the results that we want. As if I could launch in here, I have a project and I want to add something. And keep in mind, this is not fully flushed out, and it's not great on phones. It's better on computer. I could say VIP 22. This is my project name. What's the description? 220153. There you go. And I want to create a working video model and script. And then you can just create it out. In progress, let's say it's high priority. Start date, let's make the due date, so we put a deadline. Let's put it to the 21st. And let's just create it out. Now we have that one in progress. So now we need tasks, because the project needs tasks that have to be done to make it satisfactory. Let's create a new task for the VIP2. Let's say create a sales script and pitch deck. And let's go into the details of it. Let's just say, my main thing is merchant night. Pretty much, if you haven't heard, it's pretty much you're honoring virtue and you're providing a real good service, product, resources, service. All the good jargon. You're not giving snake oil, you're not doing an MLM, you're not doing a bait and switch tactic. Those are the detrimental things that will destroy your business faster than anything else. If you had to guard yourself more, I would guard yourself against those type of things, because they are the ones that will pry and they will eliminate your sense of direction. Direction as in your moral compass. We hop onto things, and you can see how I'm just building this out right now. It takes a few minutes, but you're being deliberate. And you can add some subtask. And let's not do that. So now we have get the sales training. Time block it. All right, so let's say I want to put the work. Let's call it the merchant night build. Yeah, I'll just test built. Now, I don't like how that ended. I want to do it from 10 p.m. There we go. So now we have that whole block sectioned off. Now let's put a timeline on. The VIP2, what's it? I'm going to call it the merchant night, even though it's not called that on the task, but it'll be more than enough. Task 1. Now we add the milestone. Now let's say I don't like how long that says. So on that 20th, I want to see the merchant night be completed. And now I have the time block set up for that. And now let's say, because I put this as recurring if I did. Yeah, daily. Save changes. So let's go to the next day. There we go. And that would pop up. I might look into that. Good thing to know. Besides that, little small thing. We have our vision board. You can put in your own images, text, quotes, goals, all in here. As well as health. You can build out a better healthy lifestyle. You can just click off here, 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 and here. And the more that you do, the more you can check off and knowing that you're doing your things right. And then bam. And then boom. Now you've done pretty much that. I missed 2, but let's just leave it at that. And now let's do it. Bam, perfect day. You did all the things that you needed to do. Now you have that. You have your vision board. I can say merchandise. Let me build one out for you. Add text. Master. Let's add it in. You can drag it. You can put it around. Add a goal. Let's say 100K followers. Why would I have a vision board in here? Because you want to see where you're going at. And it keeps you grounded. And the timeline, you can see VIP 1, build it out. The Merchant project is on the 20th. You can build out for the day. The functionality of it going to the next day, I will investigate deeper on. I think that's just an error. The data that you do, though, is cached on your own computer as cookies. So you have that. And in settings, you can take that storage that you have, export the data as a JSON. You can import the backup into here as the JSON as well. And then it will read it back off. So now you have everything back into your session. And there you are. As well as I have a video game that I've created, Silk Road of Ideas. It's based off philosophy and the Oregon Trail. Very simple, very fun game. So if you get bored, you can test that out. As well as my payment power. And I highly recommend taking a look at this. This one is going to go over everything in detail. The only thing you'll need is an email. Sign up, get in there. We have a textbook that you can download. So if you don't want to go through all the modules and you want to read page by page, there's that. But if you go through the modules, it will just give it to you in tidbit section. So you have this one section of the module and so forth. But very good. I am working on this little image here. It's just taking a little bit more time to get that image up here on, but everything else on it is pretty much foolproof. And you can see here the 5 laws of payment. These are things that people should be living by. Like if I was in school, these are the things I wanted to be taught immediately. Because if I don't know much accounting, but I know a payment gateway, I can now operate to get funds. And that's like the first part of sales. And funds have to transact first. Accounting, I could recommend you off to a book. You could do the personal MBA, get the full overview of business, and then like hit an accounting book of like, I think Tom Wheelwright does the tax strategies. Mike Kipper, I think is his name. He did like the accounting in less than 100 pages. That's very good. And then large language models can put in the information you need to as well. So that's good. My brain's blanking because I just don't know all the accounting books off the top of my head, but you could find a accounting 101 as well. Nothing out of the ordinary. And that is all that I got. So yeah, make sure to subscribe, see more of this content, and my book is online with the PDF, EPUB, and audiobook. And I do have a Spanish version as well. This is my first book, and it's pretty cool. I've enjoyed writing it. It was a great learning experience. It took me to places that I never thought I could. I wanted to challenge the norm of writing and really create something that was unique, not just following the cookie cutter image or categories. I wanted something where it just took life experiences, but also a blend of fantasy and reality that just makes it its own taste and refreshing. And you're not like reading through heavily dense material that you're like, I need a dictionary to figure out. There's some words in there that are advanced, but it's not like crazily advanced that you can't understand the book. And that's like one of my main missions of it. I wanted it to be readable, but a little bit of a challenge to your mind and to the repertoire that you choose, because that can change your whole entire life. So I can leave you with this. If you don't choose your tools correctly, and you just follow principle and techniques and all this stuff, you're going to be ending up at the road that you don't want to be. You won't have the systems, you won't have nothing to execute on the process. You can know it all in your head by reading 1,000 books. I've read many books, and I'll tell you what, I would trade those many books for how many tools I have right now. But the books and the tools together amplify the message that can be conveyed. The life that you want is not the system, it is the tool that you must use inside of the system to go farther and beyond. If somebody tells you principles and tactics, it's all merry and good, but if you can't transact, you got no business. That's the first part. You can mess up on anything, but if you have no part of transacting, no tool of getting that through, you're going to fail. And it is rough. People will try to sell you this entrepreneurship like it's a new cake. And it has so many great opportunities in it, but it is not what it's cut out to be. If the lesson had to be taught to you, if you do not have a purpose going into business, Steve Jobs was right. You should not be in business. You need to do something beyond the money in this. You have to do something that's beyond, because the money will not make you happy in the end. And that's what I'm starting to find now. I don't care if I have 100,000 followers, 1 million followers. The thing I care about most is teaching people the payment gateway. If you have a means of gateway and you understand that, then you can go anywhere. And then as you advance out and you learn how like taxes, I would even say like mechanics, doctor's repertoire, just being very adaptable in so many other areas, law. If you have the ability to take the payment gateway and spread out your wings and just go out in all these other branches, you're going to see such a different lens of life, because now you know how it operates. If somebody's telling you can make $1 million on drop shipping, but they don't teach you how to set up the payment gateway first, I'm out. Sorry. I'll listen maybe to your technique or tactic or the data or trends or data analyst. Woohoo. I'll maybe look at that. I'll be skeptical. But I will be skeptical of like how you're teaching right off the bat. I might take little tidbits here and there, but I'm totally out when you tell me 1 million, but no way of getting the thing started. I'm just cautionary like that. You can take what you like here or forget the rest. I would only implore you to not forget it if it has huge consequences on you. If you believe that you want to just write checks and do dollar bills and cash, go right ahead. I'm not going to stop you. But if you want a tool and understand the whole ecosystem so you are positioned for greatness, then do that. So I'm going to sign off here. Have a wonderful night. Deuces.